Great.
Perfect. And welcome everybody to our first of two opportunities to interact with Alter Live. It's really great to have Stephanie here, who was the person who first said, what are churches doing? And I'll let her tell her story, but she's been really responsive as we have talked about how can we make this accessible? How can we help churches learn about this platform and what they're offering? And I'm really grateful that not once today, but twice, she's willing to share what they're doing. So Stephanie, welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Well, yeah, like Cindy said, I'll be doing this again at 7. So if you don't like my first time around, you can hop on then. It'll be my second act. Well, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Hoping you can all see this. Do you see online ministry on the screen? Great. Well, like Cindy said, my name is Stephanie Antonucci Leaf. I'm a resident of Wenham, Massachusetts, just outside of Boston. I'm a graduate of Gordon College. I live right near Gordon Conwell Seminary. If you know this area, if you're already in the New England Presbytery, or if you're not, it's a great place to visit. We do encourage visitors, pre-COVID times at least. So like Cindy said, I got to know her through Reverend Bruce Reyes Chow's out in Palo Alto, California, who's Reverend of First Presbyterian Church there. He's, there's a world of us online now that have all started kind of conversing together about this reality we seem to find ourselves in, which is this new emerging way to do church together, online ministry. So this is the work that I do. Before I got into this space, I was happily working at Gordon College teaching entrepreneurship. My background, my parents did humanitarian aid work growing up. I was born in Pakistan, raised in Afghanistan, lived there until I was 18, moved back to the US for college. My family followed me, so they live near me as well now. Like I said, I went to Gordon College, studied psychology in undergrad. And then really in my first years out of college, discovered the world of entrepreneurship, which I think is an amazing field that Christians get to be involved in. And so spent 4 years teaching and running our entrepreneurship center at Gordon. In the process, I really began developing a mindset in which you see problems as opportunities. So when COVID hit, talk about a problem that could be turned into an opportunity. It really got my gears turning on how churches are responding to this incredible historic shift that we are all experiencing. So through my role at the Center for Entrepreneurial Leadership at Gordon, I knew 2 other software engineers local to the area. They had their own careers going in software engineering, but we really got together and started talking and speculating, what is it that's happening to churches? So we began what every good entrepreneur does, which is market research. We started talking to faith leaders and lay people like yourselves, asking, what's this experience like for people? And the number one thing we kept hearing was, live stream exists. We can get online. Things like Zoom are out there, but all live stream, if you're just using Facebook or YouTube, is a one-way broadcast. And if you're just using Zoom, there's still not a whole lot of agency to be able to have what church is really about, which is peer-to-peer interrelationship. And we started seeing this big gap forming in the tools that churches had to get online. There's been great creativity, and I can imagine each of your communities, you have done things that have stretched your skill set. You've seen people rise to the challenge, and you've seen some really hopeful things and some really discouraging things in the process. So back in May, we really began building our first lines of code to build what is called Alter Live. I'm going to talk about that a little bit into this, but I want to start by giving you a little bit of the state of the union, so to say, of where we find the church now. So I have some good news, some bad news, and some opportunity and surprise news. So you guys are living this reality every day, but the bad news is that we have seen church attendance take a major dip in this season. If any of you follow Barna, they've come out some really interesting statistics over the last month. 1 in 5 churches could close in the next 18 months. That's not just because of COVID. There's, underlying causes that could be pre-existing that cause churches to, this to be the tip of the tipping scale for them. 36% of only churches that are reopening are only seeing about 36% re-enter for a variety of reasons, whether that's their limits, but for those churches, this was pre the second wave that's coming, or third wave for some states. There's, even when churches reopen their doors, they're not seeing a flood of people start entering. And then lastly, 40% of churchgoers are dropping out. Churches are seeing a decline in people that were regular attendees or part-time attendees that just aren't even showing up in the online arena. The good news, though, is that we have seen some really hopeful things come out of this season of disruption. 60% of churchgoers actually want to continue online after the pandemic ends. There's new habits that we've been developing and new audiences that we've realized have been able to be included because of our online space that we didn't realize before. 63% of churchgoers report that they want to use online to deepen spiritual life. As technology by definition is a tool, and the internet and things like that have entered our lives in so many other ways. In some ways, this season has allowed the church to see that there's a world of tools out there that can be used for spiritual growth, development, and community connection in ways that we just maybe never could imagine before because we didn't need to. And lastly, 35% of people are reporting that they would prefer some combination of in-person and online, that they could see themselves attending in person, but they also want to continue having those options to engage online, even beyond this pandemic. So for those of us who have spent time trying to, I've often heard it described, pastors and lay people have felt like they went into a sprint in March and April, and then the sprint turned into a marathon, and then they got to August, September, October, and then they were handed a bicycle and told this was a triathlon. And it feels like this never-ending game change. Like, what's the next thing? And is anything that we can invest in gonna last longer than a 2-week, Band-Aid solution? So that's really where my team and I have really tried to start building technology around the tools that churches need to engage in this season and beyond. So I want to first, as we think about the investment of online, there's a feeling in some people that it's a Band-Aid, and other people that you might have experienced stories like this one. And for my team, we really are starting to see these stories that make us think online is here to stay, and it might actually open doors that have never been opened before. So I want to tell you the story of Rose. Rose is a member at a congregation we work with in South Carolina. She's been in a nursing home for the last, I would say, year or so. So even before the pandemic hit, coming to church every week took a few more extra steps than it used to when she could drive herself. And before the pandemic, she wasn't even able to attend every week. Once the pandemic hit, their church started using Zoom, like a lot of you have. And as the church started using Zoom, Rose would call in early to the Zoom call. She'd use the call-in option. And she would start chatting with other people, one of which was another member who she didn't actually get to see anymore very often because living in the nursing home just prohibited her travel ability, and also because of the pandemic. So she had a friend that she would talk to, and when the pandemic hit, and she couldn't leave her nursing home at all, she would actually call in early just to talk to this friend. And what started happening is these other members of the community would also start calling in or logging in early just to listen to their conversation, because they were characters. They had funny stories to tell, and they never usually got to see these other people anyways. So a few weeks into this happening, Rose told her pastor, "I don't feel like a second-class citizen anymore just because I can't attend in person." And that, for this pastor, told us, for him, it was a huge wake-up call. It was like, I never realized that there were invisible barriers to people being able to be a part of our community, that now this unexpected twist of online has actually allowed us to include others. So we call this new world the hybrid ministry world, and we really believe it's a new way to do community together. Part of that, the shift that is happening now, after 6-8 months of doing this, however far we're in, 7 months of doing this, is we've learned how to get online, but now we're really trying to understand, what does it mean to be a community online? Not just to our services online, but to find connection and to find relationship and to be present with people. So we really believe people online aren't just viewers, but full participants. And technology is starting to be designed around that. So just about a few other, people that we see have benefited incredibly from this. I mean, this is a huge list, not a huge list, but a list of lots of people that I personally have been so inspired by and did not even think of when church has been online. Like probably a lot of you, I'm guilty of this. When my church went online, I was like, I don't want to go online. I want it to be just the way it's always been. And what I've started to realize as well is that there's a group of people that I never realized were being left out. So the shut-ins, like the example I gave, people who are immune compromised. We have stories of people whose spouses don't attend church, but they do, and they've maybe been going to church by themselves for a long time. But now that they're at home, I have a great story out of the UK where a woman who'd been attending church for 40 years, her husband had never gone with her. She started pre-recording herself reading scripture for the service. And her husband watched her struggle for a few weeks with the iPhone, trying to get it just right on the book stand. And he said, you know what, let me just record you. So you stand here, let me get the lighting right. Okay, go. And then after a few weeks realized, you know what, give me a try this. I want to try this. So he would do the scripture reading recording and start turning it in. And he'd be like, I want to watch myself do this. So he slowly found himself becoming an active member of this church that he had never stepped foot into, all because he was able to engage from afar, from the comfort of his own couch. We see other groups like parents of high maintenance children, travelers working or on vacation, snowbirds. If any of you New England people make your way down to the Florida presbyteries, I don't know if you guys ever make your way back up, but yeah, people who are only part of a community for a season of the year, but might want to do that even longer. Seekers who are not ready for in-person. Walking into a building is maybe not a step that they want to take because it might look scary behind closed doors. What does happen behind those doors? But online has kind of pulled back that veil to be able to see this whole new world and make it less intimidating. And then last but not least are introverts. If that's any of you on here, there's been a whole new world opened for the introverts. One of my favorite quotes from a workshop we were at recently was somebody said, many introverts can be the best people to work online in engagement. Not having to be with people doesn't drain them. Extroverts often get drained when not physically with people, but introverts, this is their time to shine. One of our colleagues, Andy, the church he attends, there's a new member that they have just elected to their elders board who nobody knew before this pandemic. But every week she was the most chatty person you would imagine in the comments section. And everyone was like, who is this person? I've never seen them before. And when they started chatting with her, she was like, yeah, I mean, I hate the in-person. I have so much social anxiety, but man, I love making people feel welcome in this online space. And so they elected her to be the congregation elected her to be an elder because all of a sudden she came out of the woodwork. So we see a world in which there is opportunities opening for people to engage. So we get to now, fast forward 8 months into this pandemic, we're starting to see, as you all have seen online, there is a major difference between watching and attending. Barna has this interesting stat. So if we were to dig deeper into this, 40% of churchgoers that are dropping out, which is a very alarming stat at face value. But digging a little deeper into that, Barna asked a few questions that kind of reveal some of how people self-identify. They asked people, in the past month, have you watched church online? And of these 40 people, they said yes. But when asked, in the past month, have you attended church in person or online? The same people who said they watched church said they did not actually attend church, which leaves us with the question of what does it mean? What does it mean for someone to feel like they have attended or are a part of something? I think in the first months of this pandemic, as was very natural for all of us, we thought getting our services online means that people still feel like they're attending church. And we're starting to see this gap form in which people can passively watch something, but not actually feel like they're engaged or a part of something. Which leaves us with this question. It's all about engagement. Where the world that I live in now is one in which we're really trying to think about the technology we use. Technology existing out there like Facebook, YouTube, things of that nature. When they talk about engagement, it's driven by likes, views, how many people shared your video, how many people commented on your video. And it's really limited to that. I mean, in the social media space, those are valuable metrics and those are valuable ways to engage, but that's social media. Church online has a totally different engagement, looks totally different. How we would define engagement in a church is very much like we do in person. You can actually see who is here. You can feel like you're seen and known, whether you're there, and your absence is also missed. Passing of the peace, the ability to one-on-one engage with people, sermon discussion questions, the ability to take what you're hearing and digest it. I often feel like watching just one-way broadcasts is like chewing without swallowing without chewing. You haven't actually gotten to really learn at a deeper level. Coffee hour, social hour, all the 15-minute things that happen before and after service that are so important to our community life together. And then prayer, both private prayer and prayer one-on-one with someone where you can really minister to each other. So this longer so my team and I, fast forwarding back to where we sit in all of this, we looked out in the world and we saw on the left hand all of these engagement metrics and nobody building for the right hand engagement metrics. So we started building Altar Live. I'm going to show you I'm better to show than tell. So I'm going to let my colleague Andy, who actually narrated this video, share it for you. I'm going to put this in full screen and I'm going to hope that it plays out to everyone. And Cindy, just give me a sign if you can't hear the audio.
So you started live streaming your church services online. You adapted your preaching, you figured out the music, and your numbers grew. But some people have been dropping out of church. As many as 40% of churchgoers say they have not been to church online or in person more than 2 or 3 times since the pandemic began. Something got lost in the transition. Something is missing. Your people, your community, your small groups, they can see you, but they can't see each other. People don't want Netflix for church. They want community. What if you could combine the best of what your live stream does for your content with the best of what video conferencing does to connect your community? Welcome to Altar Live. Altar Live is an online platform designed for faith communities to host interactive and engaging events and services. Our simple, intuitive platform gathers your people together online where they see each other during a church service and mingle and socialize with each other. When you share your church's live stream in Altar Live, it's a whole different experience. Attendees choose where to sit and have a watch party with a friend or two. Or they sit quietly by themselves and just see from a distance who else is attending church online today. During the passing of the peace, find a friend and connect with them for an almost in-person experience. Do you miss coffee hour after church? In Altar Live, see who's around and just grab a table and talk face-to-face with a friend or acquaintance for a while. When church is over, newcomers easily find the welcome table where they can talk with someone from the welcome team, ask questions, and learn about next steps. Does your church have a place where someone can ask for prayer or talk with someone in private? With Altar Live, you have that online. Just save a table for prayer, and 2 or more can gather. Altar Live is easy to set up. A volunteer or tech team staff does it in 3 simple steps. First, create an event. Second, connect to your live stream feed. Next, copy and paste the link to your website or send it out. That's it. Church members and visitors tap or click on the link and join the event. No downloads or plugins required. Experience it for yourself right now. Just head to altarlive.com and start your free account today. Altar Live. Make church engaging again.
Oop, I don't want to play it again. How do we get out of it? There we go. Awesome. Let me put this back in present mode. Oop. Great. Can you still see my screen? Awesome. So this is Altar Live. This is my team and I have been working on for the last 6 months. We have designed with community partners in mind. We've very much in tandem with churches. We've built feature after feature that is really designed for the way that church and community engages in an online space. We really believe that there is a new, as we go through the rest of this pandemic and beyond, there's a huge opportunity to create a different kind of community than just what social media forces us into online, but that there's options to actually go deeper together and simultaneously to make it easy for churches. So on that note, which I'm sure is, the next thing we're really going to spend some time talking about is, how do you actually get started? And I'm going to talk at a high level about live streaming in general. I know not everyone, I actually should have created a poll. Actually, can I still create a poll? Probably not. I don't, maybe I know, Cindy, you probably don't want everybody to unmute themselves. So I'm going to, maybe in the chat, you could just write, what's your church using right now?
Or I could create a poll. Do you want me to do that?
Great. Do you want to just create a poll while I go through the first two? And then when we get to step 3, invest in technology, I'd love to know what people are using. Are you using Zoom? Are you using video editing software like OBS or Wirecast? Where are you streaming to? Some of those things. Thank you.
Will do.
So knowing that you guys are all coming from different stages and locations, and sizes of congregations, resources at your disposal, and what's working best for your community. The first thing I will say is there's not one size that fits all. Even in designing Altar Live, we recognize that there's different needs among different communities. So I'm going to talk through a high level getting started checklist of as you all are thinking about online ministry and the strategy you're creating as a church leading into this next season and beyond, how to do it well so that you can create more than just, solutions that last a few weeks, but that can actually last you a while. So first and foremost, what we know about online, who is watching? So this is, it's a fascinating new study, new area that we're still learning so much about. I'm sure that in starting next year, there will be classes at seminary where people start understanding what online ministry means and how to engage with people in different ways. Identifying your audience is the first step in really crafting a great online ministry strategy, because like I said, not one size fits all. I've heard a pastor recently say, this is true of churches even before the pandemic, this 80-20 rule, that 20% of the congregants do 80% of the work, that you have, a large amount of people that serve a smaller amount of people. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that. But the same has now applied into the online space, in which you have 20% of the people trying to get content created, get things online, get people engaged. And one of the amazing things about the online space, the benefits that it offers, is that there can be a bit of a decentralization of ownership, because people have laptops in front of them in which they can be an active part of church in a new way. So one of the first things I usually suggest to churches is send out a survey, talk with people, and strategize as a congregation. What do you want your community to look like online? What would be meaningful engagement? And if you break it down even further into, subgroups, existing members, who are they and what do they want? How have they been engaging over the last few weeks, or have they not been engaging? Secondly, the family and friends of those existing members. What's the easiest way for your members to be able to include other people into your services or events? One of the interesting stats is that it takes 80 congregants to get one new person to attend church regularly. Meaning it takes a village to see church growth in your own personal networks, inviting them into church life and faith life together. So if you think about that stat, really it's your people, yes, we often think if we just put a video out in the world, there's going to be some, great engagement that happens with it. But yes, that's true in views. But if we think about engagement beyond that, your people become, just as they always have been, your vessels of light into your communities. And then the third one is observers, who might be watching that is not known to you. So to my point just now, putting things online actually does give you a stage into the whole world. So as you think as a community, I don't have an exact formula, but this is something I encourage churches to do is strategize as a congregation together. Who is it that you want to be online as a community? And how would you make your space inviting for those in your immediate networks and beyond? So secondly, and then how do we design around those? I'm skipping ahead too far. So we have another, if I was breaking it down into another kind of Venn diagram, we could do a lot of these, but you have, your online congregation, your offline congregation, your curious observers. Technology often falls in the good technology falls in the intersection of all three, that is able to keep all three of these audiences engaged. Your online congregation, those who join at a given time or same time synchronously together. But the reality of having online content now as well is that you do have people engaging on their own time, whether it's, they watch on their own or it fits into their schedule a certain way, or they want to go back and listen to something that they missed. And then lastly, your curious observers, those who are watching at a distance because those curtains have been pulled back. So secondly, after, as a congregation, as you've really strategized along those lines, the second step is identifying teams and roles. So I have here on the screen four hats that you could imagine people wearing. And because your churches are all different sizes and probably people already wear multiple hats, think of these as roles that might be combined or separated out based on people's skill sets. I would say too, as I go through this list, if think about people who could actually grow into these roles as well. I think one of the coolest things about this pandemic is realizing that there's some people in your congregation who might not have had gifts or skills that were tapped into before, but that can be now. And people who never thought they would be able to do technology, but now have realized, it's maybe not as nearly as hard, or there's ways that they can do it that feel really authentic to who they are and the way that they operate in the world. So at the top, you need a live stream coordinator. You need somebody who's going to schedule, create, and manage the live stream. This might be a church administrator. This might be somebody who's more techie, who actually, if you're using actual video software, this is the person who's going to become the expert in that. They're going to own that. Secondly, you need a web and social media coordinator. You need somebody who's going to update the website, your social media platform, and let people know how do they get involved in your online space, what's happening. Putting something online is half the battle, and then the other half is letting people know that you are online and how to access that, which you guys have probably gone through, many steps of that. Thirdly, tech deacon. This is such a cool role that we've seen emerge in churches out of this time. But somebody whose skills and gifts are one of helper mentality. Somebody who wants to, maybe they've done it the hard way. Maybe there's somebody who wasn't tech savvy, but has now learned it and wants to share that learning with others. Maybe it's somebody who is gifted in that way, but really has a gift of teaching. This is somebody who helps people get online, works one-on-one with people to get set up, who is really that person who helps build the confidence of your online people getting into the online space as well, and is thinking at a high level about curating engagement. So just because it's easy, I've actually recently in the church that I attend, I was talking to somebody over text who goes to the same church, and we are on YouTube. And I was saying, yeah, it's really nice how easy it is. And they were like, well, yeah, it took me a long time to figure out how to build this into my daily habits. And I realized, wow, it is different for different people. Just because it's easy for me doesn't mean it's easy for someone else. But I've seen roles like tech deacon emerge that they can really shepherd people through and kind of keep that bird's eye view on and thermometer of how everyone's feeling. And then lastly, your greeting team. This is your hospitality team. These are the people that, any technology tool is not going to make conversation happen. People still have to actually do that interpersonally. And so just like in person, greeting teams help people feel welcome and known in an online space. So I'd say these are teams and roles that you can start thinking through. So then we get into technology. So Cindy, if you have that poll ready, I'd love to send it out and just hear from you. What is your church doing right now to get online? Zoom, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, in-house system.
And you can pick more than one, because I know some churches are doing multiple things.
Mm-hmm. A lot of Zoom. Zoom is great. We're using Zoom right now. Awesome. Yeah, so a lot of Zoom, Facebook Live is next, YouTube Live, and in-house systems.
Let everyone see that.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to assume in-house systems, you guys are using some kind of video editing software or, soundboard camera setup. Great. So the beauty of, things like Zoom are that you can have this interpersonal connection. You can see gallery mode. It doesn't require that video editing software. Everybody can use their own devices to share from. Limitations are that Zoom is built for video conferencing. And so they did not design for churches at the start. So there are, as you've all probably done learning to use the Zoom processes, there's still some things that are a bit clunky or doesn't quite fit naturally, but for the most part can be, easy for people to get onto. Facebook Live and YouTube Live, the benefit of things like those is that you can share them on people's individual pages. They're open. It does not require creating accounts. You can just log in and stream the service right there. And then in-house systems. I mean, this is for churches who are starting to grow in this way into a bit more sophisticated ways of doing it. In-house systems allow you to, for the long term as well, think about both your in-person and online congregation and how you create slides, how you actually think about the event end to end as a little bit more produced. It gives you more flexibility to mess with quality and things like that. Has its pros and cons as well. So what I'm going to do now then is talk through how, knowing that, you guys are all over the, spectrum of options that you've used. I am going to talk through two setups that I would say are step one and step two. And we're going to talk about how Altar Live specifically fits into both of those. So step one in investing, the first thing every church does is they check their internet. They see what hardware is available to them and software, things like video editing software, live streaming, and engagement platforms like Altar Live. So I'm actually going to skip this and come back to it. So setup number one, Zoom. So if you guys are using Zoom and you, thinking about the long term and what it means to invest in technology that's actually going to last beyond the season, Zoom is great at capturing video on anyone's devices. So if you were to pair something like Altar Live or Facebook, Vimeo, YouTube with it, Zoom starts by running on your computer. You have an account. It captures video and audio there. You can stream from there to Facebook, Vimeo, YouTube, a video player. And then from there, Altar Live just captures that feed from any one of those sources and hosts it within our player. So the setup is as simple as that. You could still run your presenters from Zoom, in which you are, perhaps Cindy is leading worship and you have 3 other people and they're all on Zoom, but everybody else now joins on Altar Live where they can actually engage with each other on that deeper level. Altar really goes that one step deeper into very much like Zoom. There's the video conference aspect, but there's the ability to self-select who you want to talk to, who do you want to sit with. You can go to multiple rooms and meet with multiple people in the session together. Setup for Zoom, is $15 a month. Each person has their own device. You have to have some kind of YouTube or Facebook account. And then if you pair an Altar Live account with that, you're looking at, a pretty comprehensive package that allows you to quickly get online and continue doing that really seamlessly. Secondly, as the screen shows, it gets a little bit more complex if you want to start adding in other things. But first thing I would say up top on this is that I really think that as churches grow in their skill sets, that some of these things are not nearly as complicated once they're under your belt. It always looks more complicated on a screen like this. So option number 2 is if you're looking to actually use video editing software. So again, you're capturing your video and audio somehow through cameras or microphones. You're sending those to a video editing software like OBS or Wirecast. Those are 2 of the most common that churches use. There's lots of others as well. This is in the video editing software. You're adding slides or lower thirds. You're switching between video feeds there. You're controlling audio levels and sources. You're really turning it more into a produced event. Some churches then, this is optional, but you can also send to a stream provider if you wanted to stream to multiple locations at the same time. So if you wanted your church service on your website, your Facebook Live, your Vimeo, and your YouTube, and on Altar, you could use a stream provider to basically take that feed, send it out to all those places, and then be present on all of those. Or you can simply send from a video editing software directly to one site or to Altar. So again, we then capture that feed and we play it in the Altar platform. So these are 2 high-level overviews of kind of some systems. Again, the video editing software route requires more upfront costs in terms of equipment. And the number one thing I would say is if you do end up going this route as a church, you can grow into this slowly as well. You do not have to invest in $10,000 quality cameras and things like that. You can add slowly into what you have, even just starting with iPhones, iPads, things of that nature. So you could be looking at anywhere from between $400 and $7 in like one-time cost to get started on some of these things. So Altar Live then. So you saw a little bit of what it looks like in the video. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch my screen and actually, while I do this, because I've been talking a long time, I would love to, oh, I see questions already come in. I was about to say, I would love to hear more questions from you guys as we go through this to make this as useful for you as possible. So please feel free. And Cindy, I'm not probably going to be able to read them fast enough, but if you want to throw them out to me, and you can pause me at any time as people have questions. So I'm going to stop my screen share here and switch screens. So feel free at this point to, put questions in the channel, things that you would like to know or are confused on at this point.
And Patrice's question in the chat is about scalability, which you and I had talked about for our smaller congregations, which is the bulk of them across the Presbyterian Church. But then also the deeper question of wondering about a new worshiping community and only meeting online. Is there a future for faith communities that are completely remote? Yeah.
It's a great question, Patrice. I definitely think that trend is coming. So to the scalability question first, I think if you're asking, how can Altar Live be used for multiple events? Maybe I need clarity on that question as well. Maybe I'll start with your second question. Do we think that online communities are going to start being like online only communities are going to start existing? I do think so. I think that what the pandemic has kind of question for all of us is I think prior to the pandemic, a lot of us might have thought, can real community actually happen online without any in-person presence? I know certainly going into the pandemic, I was a bit skeptical of that, can you actually have a real community online? And I think we've proven to ourselves that you actually can. People can really feel like they are known by other people, seen by other people, and a part of something, even in online spaces. And I do think one of the beauties of online is that it's certainly a lot less overhead than having to shovel a parking lot, at least for New Englanders. I know that's a big headache every year. But also that it allows scale. You can grow your congregation and your members across locations. You don't have to be pinned to one certain location. I do wonder if the trend, statistically in the US right now, most church growth is because of smaller church death. 70% in churches that report church growth, 70% of their new members report that they already went to a church somewhere else. So it's really only that 30% that are coming having no faith background or no church background, which, you know, I think there's, if any of you know Nona Jones, she's a great leader in this space. She often uses the analogy. As churches, we often look at our church as a fishbowl of all the fishes that we have in our fishbowl, and not, you know, and I think what online has started to do is realizing that we actually swim in an ocean where you can, you know, it doesn't have to be fishbowl by fishbowl, that there actually can be fluidity, and that you can now meet people all across the world or outside of your community that might not have come within the physical four walls in and of itself. Yeah.
So I think these other questions may also be going to the question of scalability, and if I remember correctly, you know, a church that is currently using Zoom,
yes,
can still use Zoom and add Altar Live as the deeper engagement place. So first-time visitors could go to the Zoom link and then be invited to migrate over to Altar Live for the deeper engagement experience, that streaming platform of Facebook Live or Vimeo or YouTube Live isn't necessary.
Yes, correct. So you could theoretically bypass some of those platforms in which you, so think of it, you could think of it in two ways, depending. So if your church is, and I see a few questions in here. If your church is one in which accessibility is really important to you, in which you would like as many people to join as possible, something like Altar gives you the benefit of members are going to be able to click on a link. Like I just did here. I open this link. The service is going to play right here like this. This is our promo video, but so, you know, they can watch the service here, and they don't have to log in, sign up, do anything. It's like having Facebook or Vimeo or YouTube as a player, as a one-click link that you participate in. Now, as people want to engage further, if they click on anything over here on the sides, they're going to be prompted to sign up or log in. There you get a level of accessibility. So for churches that then are thinking about the security side, which is the thing we're always trying to balance, because there is a video conference aspect to what Altar Live does, members, to be able to actually interact in that way, you have to give an email address because we can authenticate it then. And it also then gives you the ability to kick somebody out of the event if it is an unwanted visitor, which is rare, but it does happen. So it balances that level of the two. So you can have members who are engaging with each other, but also have anonymous users, people who just want to be flies on the wall, be able to watch and follow along without having to go the full way of creating an account. Yeah, great questions. Were you gonna ask something, Cindy?
I was going to do a follow-up, and of course,
yes.
Yay! And so the same would be true if people have been using YouTube Live, or they're just posting the completed video, they could post that through Altar Live. And so again, it's a one-click link, but the YouTube video, the Vimeo video then plays through Altar Live, and there's that ability to network and be in conversation if you've signed in. Correct.
So we allow for both simulated live, and pre-recorded. So pre-recorded being what I've done here. This is obviously, this woman is not actually doing this right now. This is a video. I've just copied and pasted the Vimeo link into when I created the event. And it will sit here and play like a video player. I could also copy the link of a live stream event that's going on. And that live stream, once the video goes live on whatever platform you're using, like Facebook or YouTube, that video will also go live here. Or I can use a simulated live. So if you're using Facebook Live or YouTube Premiere, where you have a pre-recorded video, but you want it to play at a specific time, you can set that up and then again link that through to Altar. So we support Vimeo, YouTube, Zoom through those channels, and Facebook. We also do custom embed. So very much like if any of you have ever embedded your video onto your website, we do the same thing. So it's an iframe embed and we embed it right in here. So if you are using a third-party source stream provider like Boxcast, I saw somebody mention that, Restream, Resi, one of those, we essentially take your embed code and put it into Alter Live. Yeah, great questions. I also saw a question on recording. So if you, you don't want to record your service, you can still keep it private. So when you create an event, and this might actually help for everyone to go through this. We're actually going to create an event together here. So if I was to create an event, I'm going to go back and edit this one that we already have going here. So if I was to create an event, this is the process that I go through. So I name my event, I give it a description, I set what date and time do I want this event to happen. I add my team members. So I've not actually added any team members into my community, but this is my hospitality team that has permissions above, kind of like Zoom has co-hosts. This is a very similar function in which you have people who can chat with both anonymous users and members. They can kick people out. They can decrease or increase permissions. They can end the event. They can start the event. They can move people from the live stream session to the virtual lobby, and back and forth as such. You can also automate a greeting message that goes out to everyone when they enter. Secondly, you can select viewing permissions. So to the question about accessibility, so you can create public events where anybody can click that link and join it. You can create events for just members. So those who you have registered in your Alter account with a name and an email address, and to be able to access that event, they have to actually log in. Or you can create ones for selected members. Maybe you have a budget meeting and you want to host it in Alter, and you want just a few people to be able to come to that. Next, we add our, I'm going to click anyone. We add our stream. So just like I said, here's my Vimeo link. I've just pasted it here, selected it, and then it played as in you saw the player over there. You can share an image. This is like the thumbnail image that appears when you share that link if you sent it via text or something like that. And then pre-event. So before an event begins, let's say you have a button on your website that says First Presbyterian Church of Milton live. And this is where people clicked every week to go to watch your live service. So you could have a standing event link there, or a link that you change out every week on which people click on. When there isn't actually a live stream playing, you can have slides that rotate through, like announcement slides. You can have, or nothing if you just want a countdown timer going there. This is where you add those ahead of the service starting. And then lastly, we set up the lobby. These are features that are being developed pretty rapidly. So right now you can select how many seats you want at each table. You'll also be able to name and create different rooms and tables and things of that nature. So once that event is created, what I'm going to do next is actually send this link in the chat, in the Zoom chat here. If I can find the Zoom chat. So go ahead and click on that link. So you all can join this event as anonymous users now if you'd like to.
And you'll have to, I'm not sure you can click on the link because that's one of the safety things.
Within Zoom.
Yeah, but if you copy and paste.
Yes.
So highlight Control or Command C to copy, and then into your browser, Control or Command V to paste.
Mm-hmm. And while you guys are doing that, Eric, you asked what options exist for branding. So we can, awesome, you guys are in, great. So I'm gonna start seeing, if you guys are still seeing my screen share, you're probably on your own screens. I can see you start joining, 14 members, went from 10 to 14. So you're all starting to join the system. So you'll see a product tour, you can start clicking around. So branding, yes. So you can, we have not developed that feature yet, but you will have the ability to essentially put it in your own styles and colors. So it doesn't look like Alter Live, but it does look like whatever your church's branding is.
Cool.
Yeah, great questions. So as you guys are playing around, you can click on some things. You'll notice if you try to start a chat, it's going to ask you to sign up. You can go ahead and do that if you want. You can sign up to the community. I created one just for the presbytery, so you'll see some more features unlock from there. And as you're poking around, if you have questions, just drop them in the chat. You'll find, so we are still, so I'm, actually, I don't think I mentioned this to Cindy, or maybe I did mention this to Cindy. So the platform you're on right now just released this weekend. So we are hot off the press. There is a lot of functionality that's still rolling out that you might not see on screen right now, but you might have seen in the promo video, or if you head to our website, you'll see a lot of those. They're all on the product roadmap. We're developing very rapidly. Some of the features that like watch parties, the ability to pick a seat, things like that are still in development right now. Great. So as you guys do that, the last thing I just wanted to show you was, if this is of interest to you and if this is something you think your church would be interested in, we do, you can create an account for free. So if you head to our website, you can create an account right there. It's 1, 2, 3 easy steps.
You started live streaming your church service.
Sorry.
Oh, Cindy's mine started playing. You can start creating an account right from there. If you just search Altar Live, it'll pop up. Some of the features, like I said, are still being released as you go. But I know each church is different, so please reach out to us on our website. There's a messenger button in the right-hand corner. We're happy to chat further about what your church is already doing, how you could see this being used in your church, or if there's specific features you have questions about or would like to do as well.
And let's just take a minute to talk about what happens when it is safe for people to come back to the building, but we continue to have people who don't come to the building, either because we have new members who have joined who don't live in the area, or we have people, as you said right at the beginning, who are immunocompromised, and so going into a crowd of people is hazardous to their health, or people who are shut in, who've enjoyed this online experience. But now, what happens when the building is open again and there's still people wanting to access online? How does Altar Live do that?
It's a great question, Cindy. So as some of those stats that we saw at the top of the session when we were talking about, 30% of your people might actually stay online even when the church doors are open. Now, that's all speculative. We don't actually know what's going to happen until it happens. But there is a growing population of people that, might have started engaging with your church from remotely and might not actually travel to your church, or members in your church that are going to prefer that option. Something like Altar Live, what it allows you to do is to really create that one-to-one engagement. So it doesn't just feel like if I'm watching at home, I'm just watching other people do their thing in the building, as if I was watching, Netflix, I think is the example we use. But that if I'm getting online on any given Sunday, that I can actually meet with other people online. From a church staff's perspective, it does, why I think I'm excited about the role of tech deacon for a lot of churches is that it really, each community is different. So how your community chooses to invest in online engagement to really make people feel welcome and known, and to engage them in that way, I think is up to the imagination of each church. But something like Altar Live actually gives you the tools to go that one step deeper. So people can be flies on the wall, but when they are ready to take that next step to actually feel like, to get invested and involved in the community, there's ways to do that without having to just join an all Zoom call or to actually walk into the building itself, but they can actually go that one extra step. The one other thing I think I forgot to show you guys, is the coolest thing, is how we move everyone to the lobby. So as the host of this event, I can change your screen. Once our live event is done, you get to start seeing tables appear on the lobby screen here. It's gonna start populating as people join, or actually I need to refresh. So as you guys join, you'd be able to click and join tables here. And then I can move everyone back to the event like this. Great questions. I know Coastal Carolina Presbytery asked, are there size limits? And Peter, you asked, what's the number of attendees that's most commonly used using Altar? So 70 is the most common, as is the most common in church sizes across the US. 70 to 100 members is the average size. We can handle up to 1,000 plus. So we can scale quite well up and down, but most communities that we work with are within the 70 to 150 range. Cost based on number of people with accounts in your Altar subscription. So your membership may be 100, but only have 50 people signed up in Altar. The cost is based on 50 people, correct. So it's based on flexible pricing. We do it month by month because your attendance fluctuates month by month. So the way that it works is the tiers are based up to a certain limit. So the first tier is up to 70. So anything below 70, you'd be in that 70 member tier. Let's say you have an event running and you have 60 people log in with their accounts. Then you have another 20 people sign up during the event who had never had an account with you, and they create an account during the actual live event. Nothing will happen to your event. You will not get charged immediately. Your event keeps running, and those people it's easy for them to join right away. After your event ends, as the manager of the community, you'll get a notice that you went over your 70 member limit, and then you get to choose what you do. So you can either accept those signups and make them official members of the community. You can decline people if you want to, and you can choose to upgrade if you want to accommodate for that, or you can get rid of other accounts to make room for those within your plan. We also know that a lot of people, we have what's called inactive members. So maybe somebody comes once and they never come back. You don't want to keep paying for that one account that is just sitting there. So what our system automatically does is it'll detect after a certain number of days or number of times that somebody has not shown any activity on their account. We'll notify you that this person, we're going to list them as inactive, which means they'll be removed from what you're paying for. Their account will still be there. So if they ever logged back into your community and joined an event, they would never know any differently. But on your end, you don't have to pay for somebody who's just sitting there who has been inactive. I hope that makes sense. You can ask more questions in the channel. I know, so in Cindy's scenario, folks in the building plus remote participants access the tables at the lobby would of course be restricted to the Altar Live participants who would not be able to interact with those in the brick and mortar building. Maybe I understood this wrong.
So if we're in a true hybrid situation where there are people in the building and people online, how do they interact back and forth so that community continues to be built and deepened?
Yes, great question. So Altar has, this is something we are still designing towards because the reality is most churches right now are most are online only. Some are doing both in person. So for members in the building, you can have Altar on your phone and you can see those members online. You can chat with them. We've seen some, actually, there's, again, Reverend Bruce's congregation out in Palo Alto. We were talking with him and, we see more and more models emerging that we are going to be designing around, in which people have, maybe you have a few like TV monitors up where people can see other members at home, or they can interact one-on-one with those members in that way, or that you can bring people in from home to do two-way, interaction in the service itself. So so that is something we have our eye on, because it's going to become a really important part of church life as we do go into a true hybrid model where you have both online congregation and in-person congregation interacting with each other. Yeah. I saw Carla's question. We have a very small church and a small budget. I saw that your price is $69 for 70 people. You offer 5 to 20% group like Presbytery. Yes. So because most churches are organized like presbyteries like yours and church denominations are, we do group rates. So, you could sign up 5, 6 churches under group rate. And each of those churches has their own community account based on the size that they need, but we apply a discount across all of them as a group. So it's one way to, if one church has more resources than another church, and one church is bigger and another church is smaller, it benefits the smaller church because they get a rate that they can then work with at their level. And the larger church can still have their larger account, but also with the same applied discount. Yeah, great question.
Yeah. And then at the presbytery level, we could use Alter Live for presbytery meetings, for, committee meetings, for other gatherings
Yeah.
to, again, allow for both the in-person and the remote gathering at the same time. Because by our polity, Robert's rules, everyone has to be able to be seen and participate in order for them to be able to vote in a meeting. Yeah. Cool.
Yes. Yeah. Great case studies like that. We're really excited about the video conference aspect of what we're building into, that you could, you could think of so many use cases of essentially what we are really striving to build is a space online where people can gather. So not just a one-way broadcast or a video conference session, but, thinking about how do we actually take our gatherings online in ways that are meaningful.
So I got a direct question directly to me. What's the delay? Because right now, if you go from Zoom to Facebook Live, it's a good 5 to 10 second delay.
Of streaming.
Yeah. So how does that impact Alter and, again, that community engagement?
It's a great question. So it is one of the biggest downsides from Zoom to Facebook. That's why a lot of people use Zoom to YouTube instead, because it's a little bit less of a delay, or Zoom to a third stream provider like Restream or Resi or Boxcast. So because it's a one-way broadcast coming into Alter, for people at home, they're not going to know the difference because they're all on the same wavelength with each other. So if you're in a watch party together watching, you're not going to experience lag time between those people. And they're not going to know that the service is 5 seconds behind what's happening in the building because they don't have anything to compare it to. So everyone who's on the Alter platform has equal, it's like Zoom. There's no lag time between talking between people.
Yeah. And so question about, and I asked you this when we met to set this up, those who use a dial-in.
Yeah, great question. Again, another reason, if you continue to use Zoom for your service, you can continue using that dial-in option with the Zoom integration in that way. Alter does integrate with a lot of, we're developing our integration still, but with your, things like Zoom, things like your, if you have a church, if you use like Planning Center or another CMS, like a people management database where you have email addresses and names or signups for things like that, we can pass data easily between the two of those.
Cool.
Yeah, great question. And I saw Thomas asked, can a participant join from a non-smartphone dial? Oh, that's that question. Yeah. Yes. Yes, if you're using the Zoom integration. That's one of the great things about Zoom. I mean, they've really championed that well. Yeah. Great, guys. Any other questions I can answer? I know you can't talk to me directly, so I know you've been listening to me for a long time. Or Cindy, anything else you think I missed?
I'm trying to think. So up to 70 people who sign in is $69 a month.
Yes.
We don't have a lot of churches that would be more than that, but can you go over the pricing for churches that are bigger?
Yes, and let me go back to my screen here. So yeah, again, we do work at a group rate level too. So if that's of interest to you, please contact us, and we would be happy to talk through that. Lost my screen share. Where'd it go? There it is. All right. So So, and then I saw a question about the free tier, so I'll answer both of those. So it's $69 for the 70 member. It's $99 for 150. Above that, which is probably not any of yours, but in case you ever did grow to that, it's $149 for 300, and then goes up to there, I think 200 something for 500 plus. The difference between Alter Engagement and Alter Light. Alter Light is really, you can stream, you can create a community, you can connect your stream, people can use the chat function, you can control video permissions, you can have all things like that. The paid tier is where you really get into more of the engagement features. So the free tier really, it could replace at a basic level your video player on something like Facebook or YouTube. Alter Engagement is really where we have the actual tiers. And this is because this is where you start to, members start really creating accounts, and there's video conference that's being hosted at this point. So your social lobby where people can mix and mingle with one another. Eventually we'll have things like virtual classrooms or standing rooms where you can go into and have meetings and workshops. The event seat selector, ability to do prayer requests, custom branding, like someone asked earlier, video backgrounds, watch parties, event analytics, things of that nature. Actually, one of the things I didn't mention is this event analytics part of this. As probably many of you have, on Zoom, it's great when somebody logs in, you can see their name. On something like Facebook or YouTube, you can see that 37 people viewed it, but you have no idea who those 37 people are. So one of the benefits of something like Alter is you can really break down those analytics in a way that actually gives you meaningful feedback. So you can see how many people were just watching as anonymous users, how many people signed up during the event to create an account, how many people joined as members, how much engagement did they have? Did they talk with other people? Did they join a watch party? Did they use tables? It also helps highlight then people who aren't engaging, who as in the real world too of in person, that's what the hospitality team's job is, to notice the person who's lonely in the corner or who doesn't, is too shy to come up or doesn't feel like they're engaged. It really gives you the ability to see deeper into that, to make sure that people are being seen, heard, and known. Mm-hmm. Great questions. Yeah. So like I said, getting started is really easy. I would be happy to talk with any of you individually because I know every church is different. So if you head to our website, there's a messenger button in the right-hand corner. If you click on that, we answer that quite quickly, and we're happy to chat there to learn more and see what would work best for your church or give advice. Like I said, Alter Live might not be the first step for everyone, but the reason I think we'd love to get on your radar is for the long term, thinking about how to invest in long-term strategies that are going to be sustainable and engaging for your community through COVID and beyond. So we're happy to work with you guys on any time frame that you have as we continue to roll out.
That's great. Another question in the chat, another thing we talked about earlier, for the churches that often send kids and teachers to Sunday school while the worship's going on so the pastor can preach without whatever. Is that an option as well?
Yes. So we don't currently have the ability to do multiple sessions within the same event. You can have multiple events running at the same time. So you could have, multiple events that people can join out of the same account. But that is actually, I have some calls later this week. Like I said, we really do design with church partners. So I have some calls with church later this week in which we're diving into the world of Sunday school to really understand what does online engagement mean for kids. Because one of the things we are really ideating around is the ability to have, you could have, everybody join as a family, and then you could hand a device to your kid to go sit and engage in their own personal Sunday school while adults still get to engage in the adult session, or to have smaller Sunday school for adults breakout groups or prayer groups that happen during a service or things like that. So synchronous things within the same main event, just like we do in person. Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
So
awesome.
if any of you are passionate about Sunday school, let me know, because I would love to talk to you as well. And we're really designing around to that.
Yeah, for those of us who may remember the flannel boards
Yes.
when we were little kids in Sunday school, now we've got whiteboards.
Yeah, now And now a whole new world for this new generation. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I will say, when Bruce Reyes-Chow is the one who, of course, mentioned Ultra Live when we had him lead the hybrid church workshop, whenever that was, feels like 10 years ago. He mentioned Ultra Live. I reached out, and Stephanie and members of her team were really responsive. They were back to me, I think within an hour, and which may be unusual, but I felt like they were really paying attention. They gave me almost 2 hours to talk through what would be helpful in this space for the presbyteries. What kinds of things are we thinking about? How are we thinking about, continuing to be faithful into the future? So I really appreciated your willingness to come on and to be available. That means a lot, especially now.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I'm so excited to see, I grew up Presbyterian, so I have a soft spot for the Presbyterian Church, and I love to see churches thinking in this direction. If I could offer any encouragement, I know for some people looking at things like this seems scary or daunting. For other people, it's really exciting. Go. Your community is. I really do believe in strategizing as a community together. That no one person should have to bear the weight of trying to figure out online. We are all figuring it out together. I will say I've spent 6 months in this arena, and it changes week by week still, of understanding what does it mean to be the church online. We're hoping to get closer to tools that actually help shine a light on that. But at the end of the day, I've been so impressed by the creativity and willingness of churches to really adapt and learn in this new environment. And the church has always been bigger than 4 walls. So in some ways, we do have that comfort that it's just another iteration of us learning how to be in the world and to be with people wherever they are.
Great. And if you haven't already gotten this message through this brief amount of time, Ultra Live's going to keep growing to meet whatever the needs are as we are able to move into hybrid worship, as we move further into this crazy decade. This platform is going to grow and change as well to meet whatever those needs might be. So Stephanie just put her phone number in.
And I'll also put my email here. Jetty, I saw you asked for mine. You can also reach me at Stephanie@alterlive.com, or just go to Alter Live. That messenger button in the right hand. That's basically like texting me.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for joining in today. There is another one tonight at 7. So
if you want to hear me do a second time around, might be better than this one.
Well, or if 5 hours later, you're like, oh, I have a question.
Yes.
You come back. It is the same link. We're using the same link to make this as easy as possible. Or if there are other people in your church or in your community that you think, we talk about people saying after sermon, Aunt Marge should have been here for that sermon. That usually means that we need to listen to that sermon ourselves. Well, if Aunt Marge needed to hear about Ultra Live, please let her know that we'll be back tonight at 7, and the recording will be available on both Presbytery websites under our COVID-19 resources page.
Yeah, and feel free, if there's somebody that you think would benefit from talking directly to us, we're happy to. We work with all kinds of churches and can give advice from just how do we get set up live streaming to all the way how do we use Ultra Live.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All of you, and God bless for the rest of your day and week.
And you as well. I'll see you tonight, and thanks. Good to see all the rest of you.
Sounds good. See you soon.